Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Radnor Township School District Curriculum Committee meeting for January 5th, 2021. And the first item on our agenda is administrative remarks and introductions. Mr. Bechtel?
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I hope you all had a happy new year and a relaxing, enjoyable break. This is the first of two curriculum committee meetings for the month of January. Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 19th. That is the day after MLK Day. And this is just a reminder that RTSD will be having a virtual MLK Day this year. Please be sure to check this weekend's Radnor Reader for more details about programming and how to donate to local nonprofit organizations. That is all.
All right, thank you. I think that brings us up to, I'm switching between screens. Does that bring us to public comment?
It does.
Allison?
We have no public comment at this time.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. That brings us to the minutes for our December meeting. Does anyone have any comments, corrections? Okay, the minutes stand as written. And let's move in then to our first action item. Mr. Bechtel.
Yes, we have two student clubs at Radnor High School that we're asking to move forward for approval. The first is a second set of hands, which is a student club used to support families as they have family members that are struggling with serious illnesses. And the second is a ski club at the high school. So we would ask that the board approve the second set of hands club as well as the Radnor Ski and Snowboard Club.
So I received a question from another board member, just inquiring if you could elaborate, and I don't know if anyone on here can really, but if you could elaborate on what actually the second set of hands club will be doing.
So the second set of hands club would be raising funds for families in the community that have a loved one that have a family member that is a cancer patient, and they would be using the funds to support purchases for that family as their members going through treatment.
So are the funds used really to kind of cheer people up? I mean, I don't anticipate they're going to be able to make a lot of money to make a significant financial contribution to a family's livelihood, like to replace, someone who's not working because they're ill. So I was just wondering what they thought they might offer the families. Do we have any idea how that might work?
In the paperwork, it doesn't specify. It could be meals, it could be various different things, but it doesn't specify exactly what the funds would go towards for the family. So I don't have that.
So I mean, I think it sounds like a wonderful idea. I just wanted a little more context around, are they going to provide dinners, or is it just to literally go by the house and, help with chores, or, just a little bit maybe more about what, I was just curious what they had, their thoughts were that they wanted to do. But so we can always loop back to that and just maybe, find out from the sponsors what they were thinking.
I could certainly, we would ask that the board move this, so that the committee move this forward to the board for approval, and we can certainly circle back and provide that information as to what specifically they would be looking to use the funds for. But certainly the paperwork is all in order, and as you said, it is a worthwhile cause to support families in the community that are dealing with very difficult times.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody was trying to hold it up at all. It was more just, they had questions about it, and I didn't know either because we didn't, have a chance really to discuss it in detail. So I thought I would just put that out there. All right. Anybody else have anything about the club? Oh, Ms. Goldman.
Yeah, I just had a question about the ski and snowboard club. I think it sounds like a great idea. And I noticed also that there are going to be funds raised to help students who were interested in participating but wouldn't be able to afford it. And I was just wondering how, on the surface of it, skiing and snowboarding, most people know is a pretty costly adventure. How would students who are interested in the club know that there's potentially funding available for it?
So once the clubs get approved by the board, then building administration notifies the club sponsors and the students that they are permitted to advertise, and then information would go out via Schoology or flyers around the school advertising for meetings. Now club meetings would happen via Zoom. And so that information would be disseminated when the club gets approved by the board to say, this is where you can go to an informational meeting. And typically at the informational meetings is where that information is disclosed.
Okay, that's not something that they would put out so that someone who would think, oh, well, I wouldn't be able to necessarily afford this, I may as well not go to the informational meeting. Is that something that's ever advertised in advance just to break down any potential barrier to a student who thinks that's out of reach?
It has been in the past. I can confirm with the high school administration and make sure that they, when they put this out there, especially for a club that, it is expensive to go out skiing. That's something that we could put out there.
Okay, thanks so much. I think that would be really helpful for equity purposes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyone else have queries about these items? Okay, and so like we said a few minutes ago, we'll put these through to the business meeting as action items. That brings us to item 4.2 on the agenda, and this is a discussion of student email implementation. And I don't know if Mr. Bechtold wants to give an introduction or if we're going to throw that to Mr. Hand.
We've got Dr. Hand here with us tonight, and so we are very thankful for him and his team's work moving Radnor forward and continually moving the needle. And so one of the things that he is here tonight to talk with us about is the use of student email addresses in Radnor. So Dr. Hand, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So what we'd like to do, we've heard feedback from students, we've heard feedback from teachers, and especially jumping into this year with COVID as well, being able to enhance those areas of communication, collaboration, those C skills that we talk about so often, and for teachers to be able to interact with students in different ways, and also students to interact with other students as well. So we've heard some of the feedback about being able to enhance those communication methods, and what we'd like to do is to be able to open up our systems to afford our students to have that opportunity to have RTSD emails. So what we're looking to do is to be able to provide those emails beginning to the high school students and then moving into the middle school as well, leaving some future opportunities for elementary levels for future discussions, probably likely grades 3 to 5, separating out our earliest students, K1, 2. And being able to do that in a tiered way. So what we had done is took a look at the other districts in the area, and also done some cursory interviews, quick conversations with other districts across the state as well, as far as what they're offering, and then experience that I've seen in other districts in which I have served, and also areas in which I had worked. And student emails is one of those things that it was time for us to be able to provide, that most other districts have that opportunity and availability to students. It also allows them to be able to receive information, updates, improving the communication from buildings, and to receive notifications from systems in which they're already using. So for instance, if a teacher is giving them feedback on an assignment within a OneNote class notebook or on a Word document, to be able to receive notifications that those comments have been posted to those assignments, and being able to link out those email addresses to other areas such as Hack, Schoology, and just having that seamlessness of that communication and having that all bundled within the RTSD system. So we're not communicating using our personal email addresses, whether that's students to teachers or teachers to students in that way. So what we'd like to do is begin exploring that a little bit further as far as on the technical end. And then with the potential to be able to introduce that to our high school students as early as February or March. And what that enables us to do is to be able to have the last couple of months of the spring semester to work out any bugs and kinks. So when we roll into next school year, we have the summer to iron those out. Whereas if we were to wait until August to launch those, any changes that we'd have to make, we might have to wait a whole other year in order to make those corrections so we don't mess anything up. So launching now actually gives us some affordance to be able to make some of those adjustments along the way. So what we'd like to do is be able to offer those email addresses using the same protocol that we have right now as far as using the Microsoft Office suite. So they would be using Outlook, so they would be able to communicate with teachers, and that directory contact information would come up the same. That is in there, but those email addresses would actually be segregated slightly differently so that we would see them visually to know that those are student email addresses, whereas our staff members have @rtsd.org email address accounts now. The students would have @stu for student.rtsd.org. So that's our current plan. Our first look at that was, is this even technically possible? And could we make that happen? Is that something that we could promise and deliver upon? And then after investigation, we discovered that it is something that we can do. And again, having heard feedback from students and teachers, that it is something that we feel that we can offer to them.
So I just want to say one thing we did discuss in the planning meeting, and just to confirm this for the committee, Dr. Hand indicated that this won't cost us any money. And just please confirm that. And I'm just wondering why it won't cost any money. How can we do this for free? If you could just quickly explain that to a layperson.
So that is correct. And basically we are flipping a switch. That's really inherent. I mean, there's much more to it technically that we're doing, but since we already have that Office suite for the students, we basically, for the most part, just have the email turned off. There's a lot more technical hoops that we have to go through to make that happen, but they already have the full functionality of Office, and we already subscribe to the licenses for those.
So it is true. You just plug and unplug things.
I just make it happen.
Yeah.
I just make it look good.
It's amazing all you do. Thank you for letting me joke.
Okay, Ms. Dunn, you have a question about this?
Yeah, I actually thought this sounded great. And when I rolled it out to some high school and middle school students, I got very negative feedback. and I think their concern was ironically exactly what I hate, which is that I have a work account, 2 personal accounts, my school board account. And they said, no, we already have communication through Schoology. I don't want to have to go somewhere else. Are you telling me now I'm not going to hear from my teacher, or my teacher's going to be mad because I didn't hear from them because they emailed me and I was only looking in Schoology? So can you allay some fears there, or do I have to tell people, no, you have to check all those different sites and grow? That's how adults have to deal with the world.
Well, that's part of it too. The reason why we're doing this is to have an authentic experience and authentic context. And when we talk about developing real world skills, to be able to provide them with those email addresses, because that's something that they're going to use. And I think to have that discretion and autonomy, that communication is going to happen in certain mediums and certain vehicles with different teachers. Some teachers might communicate more in one way than another. Some might say, look on Schoology. Some might say, look in email. Some might say, look at the notes that I put in your Word document. It's different in the types of feedback that they give to them. But there are strategies, and we'll certainly share those with not only teachers, but with students as well, as far as organization and management of those. When in other districts, a lot of students have chosen to just forward those to their personal email addresses. I mean, there are those types of strategies which are in there as well, so that they can keep track of those correspondences that are coming through, but also the ability to be able to do some more sophisticated things with email, such as including attachments, that if my Schoology assignment is not uploading and I can't get into Schoology, being able to have that email address available to you and do an attachment with that certainly opens up some new opportunities.
Okay, I absolutely appreciate all that, but I know that we have students in our buildings who have executive functioning issues. And even the kids who don't have IEPs for that, middle school students, and especially your first year in high school, I think that can be a real strain. So I would ask that we be really clear, because not all of our teachers are the best at communicating. Communication and using all these different systems can be really hard. And I think asking, especially when everybody is either in school one day and out the next, or entirely virtual, to add this extra layer to their plate, I'm concerned it's going to get, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. I'm concerned that given the current setting, it will have a very negative, it will get negative feedback. And I think there are some real problems with Schoology. Like, there aren't out of office notices on Schoology. So if you email a teacher who happens to be out on leave, and you don't hear back from them and you think it's just because they aren't replying, well, it may actually be because they're out on leave, right? But there's not an out of office notice. So I think there's a real benefit to the functions of email, but I worry that I've already heard problems with Schoology and this doesn't work and that doesn't work. I'm just concerned I'm going to get calls from parents about this. And I just would hope that we're very, very strategic in how we roll it out. I don't think all middle school students and high school students even have personal email accounts that they manage regularly. So I think it's an important skill to learn to manage. I agree. But I just think that needs to be something we do very, very thoughtfully. So,
that's a really interesting point I hadn't thought of, because I do believe in, so we're going to really put Sebastian on the spot here. I believe the younger people don't really use email the way we do at work. I think they text and use other stuff. So Sebastian, are you comfortable sharing your email usage with this meeting?
I am. I'm completely okay with that. I personally, I'll always have like my Gmail tab open just to see if I have anything upcoming and pending. It's not connected so much to that many teachers or their work, only a few if they choose to interact through email. Last year, especially, I noticed this with my younger brother. He was in 8th grade last year. He had a really tough time finding like what he had to get done, especially once we went to once COVID and everything happened, and he had to find out like what assignments he had to complete on Schoology or on like different places, and he would turn like assignments in late because either it wouldn't be like communicated to him, or actually it would be communicated to him, but he just wouldn't be able to find it. And that was one issue that I noticed with, and you did have to really be on top of it and keep track of what teachers were assigning, when were like the due dates and everything. I think that now everyone has a better grasp of Schoology as well as teachers, and that they're able to communicate. Also, OneNote has been actually surprisingly very helpful and useful as well in the communication, especially if a teacher decides to share a file with a student, because then they can just look at it automatically. They don't even have to ask for you to submit it anywhere. They can just look at the file. And I think that we've come a long way in the communication, and I think people are kind of getting used to this system. I could see the benefits and like the negative effects from having a school email. I personally would not be against it at all. Like I would use it if it is employed and implemented. The biggest concern is, will all teachers use that as like the primary function of communicating, or will we still have to go to Schoology and other places? Then it's just adding another form of communication basically that you have to check.
Right. So that I hadn't thought of that aspect of it. We don't want to make things even more complex, as Sarah said, especially for middle school kids or kids that are on different apps. We don't want them to have yet another place to check. So what would be the expectation? Are we going to try to get everybody to use the school email, or are we going to leave it up to the teacher to decide if they're going to stick with Schoology or whatever they have going now, and this is just sort of extra? Or how might that look for, you know, an 8th grade student?
I would think this year right now, I mean, I'm not going to speak for some of the committee work, or I'll maybe speak into the committee work that we started this summer, to continue to roll with the same strategy that our focus groups really worked on this summer, to be able to develop what those communication strategies are, what Schoology looks like, what we post on Schoology, what we don't post on Schoology. And then as we gather that group and all lessons learned from this past fall and going into the spring, what next year looks like might look different, but I wouldn't see changing anything at this point as far as what the expectations are for what teachers post on Schoology and how they communicate.
So did the need for this come out of your work last summer? Is that where this is coming from? No.
Not necessarily. It's just an enhancement and something that we've seen as another layer to, rather than layer as add on, but layer as opening up an opportunity rather than having something that was closed off, to be able to facilitate some of that communication. That was something that wasn't available before. And if we had it available, why not make that available? But also, again, being able to open up those areas for notifications, that if an assignment was submitted in OneNote or there was a comment made, to be able to get that more immediate notification and that ping, that notification, that ding or ping, that something it has been updated, and have those systems talk to each other. Being able to open up those avenues are one of the greater benefits. And it also removes some of those communications from teachers communicating with students over their personal accounts. So it keeps it all within that rtsd.org domain.
Yeah, I think these issues are really interesting, you know, from the user perspective of the student and teacher. How much is personal email currently being used between student and teacher communication, or even just student and administrator communication? That's one question. And then going back to what Sebastian was saying, you know, how much communication is happening over the LMS, over Schoology right now? And, you know, in other words, I think the general question is this just sort of like a kind of formulaic advancement, like other people are doing it, so I guess we'll do it too? Or, you know, I think we're just trying to get a better sense of like what is the value added here, or, you know, what is the advancement here?
For me, the greatest advancement would be the idea of receiving those notifications. So it's more than just Schoology and those systems that receive those notifications, and improving the opportunities for those communications. Schoology messaging certainly has limitations to it.
Okay.
That Schoology Messenger is very plain text oriented. A lot of the positive feedback that we've heard when just asking the ideas like, hey, what would student emails actually look like? That for teachers, from what we've heard from some folks, is the idea like if my students could receive a notification every time that there is an update, so they don't have to go digging through all of the documents that they've submitted, would be a huge benefit to know that I made a comment on their assignment.
Mm-hmm. Great. Sebastian, I'm kind of curious, any thoughts here on this feedback?
Yeah, well, I personally have, I have the Schoology app on my phone, and with the Schoology app, I can turn on notifications to see if either like a teacher posted a grade or like added a comment to one of my submissions. I can also see all the posts of like the recent activity, which will be posts either from like the librarian or like superintendent or like whatever, all like my general feed in a sense. It gets all posted there as well, like on my phone, like I see it comes up as a notification. I don't think everything elicits a notification, so I don't get everything on it, but I do get a decent amount if you do choose to turn on notifications on the phone. And I definitely recommend downloading Schoology app on your phone so that you have it on your phone and laptop, and that way you can really stay on top of things. But I'm not entirely sure if it notifies you for everything. I don't think it does.
Can I just add something that I think this is a pretty common practice, isn't it, in college that you're given a university? If you go to college, you're given a university email address. So this is a way to sort of prepare students who are going that route to be able to, they'll still have personal email addresses, but this is a way that they're going to be expected to communicate with their professors. So there's a little bit of that preparatory aspect to it. Was that maybe part of the thinking too?
Yeah, that's part of it as well. Like the idea that official communications come over official channels as well. And as students are automatically enrolled, as much as we begin to try to automate things in the technology department, that as accounts are automatically added to a lot of the software applications that we're using, those software applications will automatically have that student email address populated, because that's the email address we would have of record and actually be active to say that, hey, this is the account that you're using, but also the communications from those applications as well.
And one other comment, if I may, some years ago, not too long ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, maybe more, Michael Petiti did a communication survey for students and staff. And I know that those findings maybe have shifted. I know he took those findings and tried to remedy some of the issues that arose from the survey. It might be interesting, I don't know, to see if there was something about this in that survey and just sort of cross-tabulate maybe the feedback from there to close the loop on some things that might have been issues 3 or 4 years ago. Just wanted to put that out there because that might be helpful to inform and say, if it was an issue in the survey, say, hey, 3, 4 years ago, people were looking for a more streamlined, I sort of remember that people were saying they wanted a more streamlined approach to district communications. And this may in fact be several years later remedy for that. So I just wanted to, since you're relatively new to the district, Scott, just wanted to put that out there in case it's helpful to see if that is supportive of your initiative or not.
No, I will. Thank you. And I know he's been talking about maybe revising that as he's looking at potentially a longer term plan of a new website, but looking at it as a more holistic communications approach and not just a website approach too. He's been sharing some of that information, talking about looking at that again.
And I only add one other thing. If there seems to be some conflicting opinion on this, just as an idea, you have a timetable for rollout here. There's always the potential of modifying it maybe and doing a smaller scale rollout, if that would be helpful to, I don't know. I don't want to introduce any potential idea that could complicate matters further, but this is one schedule. Maybe if there are concerns that you are hearing, the timetable is something to look at to see if it's, the words "walk before you run" are ringing in my head because they've been applied to many things we've heard over the course of the past year or so.
I'm also going to put Mrs. McMiniman on the spot. So I'm curious how you and your colleagues communicate with middle school students. Do you use mainly Schoology or their personal emails, or is it, things are done in Zoom? Or I just wonder what it looks like for you.
For myself, I can speak for, I know that we mostly use Schoology. There are some kids at the middle school level, especially the younger kids, that don't even have a personal email. So, I can feel for all the pros and the cons that have been put out here. And Dr. Hand also mentioned that there are certain apps where the kids requires an email address sometimes to be able to access. And we're trying to figure out, well, what's your parents' email, like to get them on and whatnot and things like that. So I feel there is a benefit to it, but I do understand the confusion. And when you have some of these kids that have executive functioning, it is difficult for them to even maintain on Schoology. Sometimes they're clicking 3, 4, 5 places. They're looking at their calendar. They're looking at updates. They're looking in teachers' folders. I agree that I really think it's how the communication is going to go. If the teacher's going to use email or Schoology, I keep the app on my phone. I get the notifications when kids send me messages. I get updates, but not all kids have that on their phone. Not all kids have access to that. So I think there is a pro and a con to it. I think it's all how we manage it and how we use those two systems to communicate.
So I think, Lydia, the point that I would make, I absolutely see the value We talked a lot last year. We did the sleep study. Students, we're not preparing high school students for the workplace. We're preparing them for college, right? So they don't need to get up at 6 a.m. We get them up at a reasonable hour because that's what's good for their bodies. And we're preparing high school students for college. I guess my question is, it's not a question, it's a request. Can we just please make sure that we're doing this? And Dr. Hand, I recognize you are the utmost in organization and trying to do things the best level possible. So I would just ask that you use those great skills that you have to make sure that this is rolled out in a very thoughtful way. I appreciate that you're doing the high school before the middle school. I'd ask whether we really need to push middle school students to use this system or if it's just something they have as a backup. And then I think even in the high school, I think we should just have a very structured way of doing it. One of the things we complained about last year was that all the teachers use Schoology differently. And we talked about having kind of a best practice of how things are set up and how the communications work. And I don't think that I've seen that roll out. So now to add another layer potentially of communication gives me pause. If it's a separate layer and instead we're saying, maybe most of this belongs in email instead of, I feel like it's better if people have really clear understanding of how things are going to work, because otherwise what we're doing is just piling on. And absolutely college kids are going to need this, but college kids aren't going to be using Schoology. So should high school students be rolling out of Schoology? I just think we need to be mindful of what we're piling on to students who this year are probably already pretty frayed. Sebastian's on top of everything, but not every kid is.
So
Sarah.
I think you bring up a good point, Mrs. Dunn. One of the benefits of this that Dr. Hank could expound upon is single sign-on, and I think that's one of the rationales for doing this is to really streamline the log-on for students as they log into various platforms. And I'll speak personally about email and Schoology. So when I was the high school principal, I didn't use the Schoology app. I just set in my email notifications for any time that someone sent me a message on Schoology. So it was one of the ways that I was able to streamline it. But I do know that Dr. Hands worked and looked at other districts around us, and he listed some of there they had reached out to: Lower Merion, Haverford, Garnet Valley. There's a number of them that are using this. I've got two children at O&J Roberts, one at the middle school, one at the high school. They both have email, and they get notifications through their LMS, through their email as well. And that's how they communicate with their teachers as well. But single sign-on was one of the selling points for me, as far as one of the things that I know that Dr. Hen and his team was trying to look to do. A pain point for many people is I've got 17 different usernames and passwords. So this process, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Hand, but could help to streamline one username, one password.
It will help us get there. It's the next evolutionary step to do that. Our goal and what we're beginning to plan out now would be the full implementation of that in August. So there will be some transition point if we were to roll this spring, where an email login might be different than a regular login, just because we don't want to mess anything up. We don't want to break anything in there. But that does lead us down to that path in planning that next year, with that goal, that email address would be the same as the login, would be the same as your access to potentially Schoology, with the same access to other third-party applications. So yes, this is part and parcel to that goal of having a more aligned system with a single login.
Okay. Can I ask one kind of, maybe a silly question? Another board member, everybody's watching this meeting apparently, texted me and asked, the model email address was like capital F last, and then it said 5-6. Is that going to be someone's graduation year? I assume it's not a birth year. Or just how's that?
That would be a very long graduation until they get there, if it's 56. So yes, that's an excellent question. We went through a couple of different naming structures and conventions to arrive at that. So we decided at first initial, last name, and the last two of their student ID. So we initially looked at first and last name, or first initial, last name, but there were a lot of repeats that were in there between the kids. And then when we also looked at graduation year, we also noticed one or two in there that would also have maybe the same S hand in same graduation year. Those did occur, not S hand, but other ones did occur. So the only thing we really found that was unique was including those last two of the student ID, but it's far better than that string of student ID where they have right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means absolutely nothing
Yes.
to anybody except for them.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You probably didn't expect this long a discussion about student email, but I thought it was really interesting. And like someone said, I think it was Mrs. McMenamin, there were, interesting pros and cons or embraces and concerns expressed. So I thought that was an interesting conversation. I just wanted to add one tiny thing, and we've been talking about college, but I do want to be mindful that some students' path isn't necessarily to college, or they're going at some point on their path to college or in the summers into the workforce. And a corporate email is something that they have to adapt to too and balance with their personal accounts.
All right. So yeah, I think everybody articulated the issues around this pretty well. So yeah, I think we're in agreement to put this forward. Our committee members, are we in agreement to put this forward? Okay. I do want to loop back to the discussion on the Helping Hands Club because we received an update on that. The Principal Kevkis at the high school is watching the meeting, and she said, a second set of Hands Club will use funds raised to buy groceries, make meals, get gift cards, or purchase whatever is needed to help offset the hardships for Radnor families who have a family member who is battling cancer. So that answers the questions, I hope, that came up just with the discussion of that club. All right. I think we're ready to move on then to item 4.3, which is the 2021-2022 Radnor Middle School Program of Studies.
Right, and we have Dr. Weidlich here with us and Dr. Bryan, and we're very excited about some of these changes to the middle school program of studies. I know that both of them have worked diligently with their team over there at the middle school to put together some changes to enhance the experience for our students. And so Dr. Weidlich and Dr. Bryan, thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you very much for having us. We are very excited to meet with you today to talk a little bit about some of the additions and the modifications to the 2021-2022 course of studies here at the middle school. So if you don't mind, I'm going to invite Dr. Bryan. We're going to volley back and forth, throughout the presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free just to jump in and to ask them. So let me start with the addition of 3 new courses. So as you might know, in the middle school, when students come to 6th grade, they are provided a nice comprehensive exposure to a variety of elective-based areas, including our family consumer science program, our art program, our technical and business education program, our music program, as well as our I'm trying to think. Did I just miss one? Our tech ed, business, facts, healthy, art, and music. So what we're looking to do is once students have this generalized exposure, is we're looking to really kind of embrace the concept of student agency here at the middle school and allow students to build on their interests and build on their passion and begin to elect classes that they would like to take part in. And so the first one that we're looking to add to our course of studies is our 7th grade digital media and communications elective. So this elective will build on our students' written and oral communication skills through the study and creation of digital media. Assignments will be grounded by the significant elements of communication, including but not limited to sender ideas, encoding, receiver channel decoding, feedback, as well as being charged to carefully consider media's influence and effect on individuals and society, rhetorical devices, and techniques used in multimedia. Our students will sample and analyze different types of communication in a variety of multimedia formats, including digital media publications, podcasts, videos, photojournals, blogs, vlogs, etc., and then ultimately apply their understanding through the creation of their own digital media projects. What's really good about this elective is it's the first type of elective that we have that is really targeted to any student who has a love and passion for communication, whether it's writing, whether it is video creation, whether it's blogging or vlogging. And, it's equitable. Any student who wants to take this class has the opportunity to do so. We would run it on a semester basis. Our electives right now run four times a semester, and then the next semester they would pick a new group of electives. The next one that we have is our 7th grade global communications elective. This would be, again, another menu option for kids if they are interested in electing this class. And this is a cross-curricular course that's designed to build upon what students learned in 6th grade English, science, and social studies. So it's taking what they already have learned in their core subjects, and they're going to develop essential knowledge, skills, and attitudes that are needed to participate as citizens in a democratic and global society. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the students examine and explore contemporary global issues that are relevant and interest-based. And that's really important to say, because we want students to have the opportunity to provide feedback, to provide their voice, and to provide to give them some choice as to what they're delving deeply into within this course. So these issues may be considered in the context of culture, nature, environment, economic challenges, politics, government structure, athletics, arts. I mean, it's wide open. Of course, it's going to be grounded in the integration of primary and secondary sources, and students will explore self-selected global challenges and propose informed solutions to address these challenges. So it's almost like a capstone project where there is going to be a culmination of everything that they learned throughout the semester with this project. So, and again, it's really getting kids to apply critical thinking, decision-making skills, the opportunity for some collaboration and communication. A lot of those soft skills they're going to be embraced within this course. And then the last new elective that we are looking to add is 8th grade baking and entrepreneurship. So, a lot of our students, they love family consumer science. And we really want to kind of target some students, and again, accessible to anybody. We want to target some kids who have a deep interest and passion for baking, because as of right now, they're getting some very generalized exposure, and this would be some enrichment for kids who may have an interest in this career or who just have a passion about it. So this course will teach our students the foundational skills in the art of baking and pastry design, as well as being introduced to careers in the culinary arts and hospitality field. Some of the skills that kids will be taught will include, but are not limited to, cakes, cake decorating, pastry dough, quick breads, and what it takes to run a successful business within this industry. So these are the 3 electives that we are looking to add to our course of studies for next year.
And I think it's important to note that all 3 of them, if you notice, is a common theme of college and career readiness, getting our kids prepared for, the next step in life and exploratory, so they can start, figuring out what it is that they want to do next, or how does the world around them impact them, and how can they impact the world around them. So I think it's really going to be a great opportunity for our students, and we want to build upon this opportunity, like with business and looking at different types of jobs they might want to get involved in. I just think it's a great opportunity for our kids at a younger age to start delving into their interests a little bit deeper and getting a great taste of what the world around is going to be like when they get older, and what they're going to need as those set of skills to be able to be successful, and no matter what they want to do.
So, Mr. Bechtold, I don't know if you want me to wait to kind of answer any questions or just wait till do it periodically throughout the presentation.
I think you go through and then we'll hit any questions at the end.
Okay. So as we scroll down, we are looking to add some drop-in centers. So in our course of studies in years past, we have advertised different types of drop-in centers for our elective areas where kids can go during some advisory time if there's not either a team-based advisory activity or a school-based advisory activity. Kids can go into different elective drop-in areas for some assistance, or kids can catch up on work, or they can receive extra help, or if they just wanted to do something that they're passionate about, that they have the opportunity to go see those teachers or those areas in addition to the scheduled time. So these next 3 drop-in centers, they would take place during advisory time. So they're not taking the place of any curriculum that's already in place, and they're not going to be scheduled in students' schedules or anything like that. We just wanted to bring to your attention different centers that we're going to be affording kids. So we're going to offer the fitness center, which will be open year long. It'll be staffed by our health and physical education teachers. Our world language drop-in center will be housed by our world language teachers in the areas of German, Latin, French, and Spanish, as well as our health center. That would be an additional drop-in opportunity for kids.
And for those who may not be aware of the middle school schedule who are watching, advisory periods in the morning. So it would be first thing when the kids come in, they would be able to go to one of these drop-in centers if they so choose to.
Okay. And then the other changes are to our technology education and our business education curriculums. These are not brand new courses. They're more modification or adaptations to the courses that are already in place. Dr. Hand, Dr. Kearney worked closely with our technology and business education teachers to really take a look at what we are offering kids. And I've had the opportunity to talk with them as well. And to be very honest and be very transparent, I feel, and in talking with the teachers, that some parts of the current curriculum, which led to the rewriting of our curricular areas, were a little antiquated. And we wanted to bring these courses up to speed. We wanted to make them relevant, and we wanted to make them almost create a spark in our kids for these very, very important areas of business and STEM-based education. So the first class that that's already in our course of studies, the curriculum just was altered, is it's currently called computer science. And for next year, it'll be called 6th grade technical applications. And the reason for the name change is we just really wanted an umbrella course term because there's going to be a lot of different things that students will be instructed within this course. So a brief overview. Within this course, our students will learn about technology in the 21st century while practicing critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration skills. They're going to be introduced to different types of software, from 3D printing to CAD software. And these programs are going to help students create solutions for engineering design challenges. Kids will be introduced to robotics, the engineering design process, which is going to be woven into all curricular areas under the tech ed, business ed umbrella. You're going to be hearing that a lot. But our kids are going to be using the design process to create prototypes, to test, analyze, and improve designs. And it's really a cutting edge course for middle school and for our middle school students. So again, the class is already within the course of studies. We're tweaking it a little bit just to make it more relevant and up to date. The next class is that's already in our course of studies that we are tweaking. Currently is called Mechanical Technology Education, and we are looking just to change it to Technology and Design. And this is another hands-on critical thinking course where kids are going to be using that design process along with traditional and modern means of production to create projects and solve problems and challenges. Now, within this class, most projects that students will develop they'll be using CAD software and Adobe Creative Cloud. They'll make use of our makerspace and our production lab that give kids the opportunity to access under adult supervision various types of hand tools and prototyping machines. So the first course is mainly technology based, and the second course that I just mentioned is also technology based, but it's also hands-on within a traditional technical education lab. Now, in 6th grade, and I think it's very important for me to kind of outline this, students would only take one of these two options. And again, this is going back to that maximum exposure that I mentioned at the beginning, because then in 7th grade, whichever class they didn't take in 6th grade, they would take in 7th grade. So you're going to see a repeat course description for the 2 6th grade classes and the 7th grade classes. So I just kind of wanted to just outline that. So that's why I don't know if it's necessary, if you'd like me to go through it again.
No, I want to just, excuse me for interrupting, but for 7th grade technology education, computer science, shouldn't it now say 7th grade technology applications to be consistent?
Hold on, let me just take a look.
This is course 0415772.
Correct. So you're looking right here.
Correct.
There.
Yeah, so one of the things that we can do is we can make an amendment to that for when the board approves that next week. We can change it. So Dr. Wadlick, we would just, before technology right here, we'd put 7th grade to be consistent with the 6th grade right here. So thank you, Mrs. Sullivan.
Yeah, no, I apologize about that. That's something that I must have glazed over. So that's my fault.
It is the same course. So we would have the 6th graders would take this course in 6th grade, half of them, and then in 7th grade, the group that did not take it would take a 7th grade section of it, the same exact curriculum. And the ones that took mechanical technology, or took the technology and design, they would flop in 7th grade.
And then once students get to 8th grade, going back to that concept of student voice and student choice, students would then have the opportunity, now that they had exposure to the business end of our business tech ed program as well as the tech end, they have the opportunity to choose between these two courses. And we're actually looking to allow kids to choose both if it permits within their schedule. But the current course in 8th grade is called Computer Science, and we're looking to change it to 8th grade STEM Entrepreneurship. And this was just tweaked a little bit. The description highlights that kids will develop an entrepreneurial mindset and, again, utilize that design process to create a solution to solve an everyday problem. The kids are going to be learning about entrepreneurship concepts, fundamental business principles, and then at the end of this course, kids are going to be working on developing a business, not to its entirety, but a description of a business that they would like to delve into, create a logo, create a prototype, a website for their company, using a variety of programs that we have here within the building. And then the last class that was, there's some adaptations made to the course description, is Innovation and Design. And that class title stays constant, it's not changing, but the description changed. Within this course, students will be given the opportunity to complete various design challenges while working with different types of items within the production lab. Some of the projects will involve several parts of that design process, such as our CAD software, digital modeling. Kids will have the opportunity to work in the prototyping lab with bandsaws, drill presses, power sanders, again, all under the supervision of our teachers. But this is the more tech ed based hands-on application course that we're offering our students. So again, like I said at the beginning, what we're looking to do is really embrace, again, the whole concept of student agency and student choice, and making our classes enrich kids in the areas that they would like, that they're very interested in. Of course, we are not a high school. We are not going to offer an enormous amount of different opportunities for kids or different types of electives. We have to keep it within reason. But we're doing this in the area of writing and language, and we're doing in the area of music. And so these elective areas, we're just slowly but surely delving into some of these other areas for our students.
Okay. Before we move in, I'm sure people have specific questions about this. I want to just confirm something that came up in our planning meeting. I believe Dr. Wadlick said that this will be revenue neutral. In other words, this won't require any addition to staff. But I did wonder, have you identified who wants to teach these courses, or are there people vying to teach these courses, or did this bubble up from somebody's interest that they wanted to have this course?
So all the above. So this past summer, the district had this amazing opportunity to provide students various different types of opportunities for enrichment programs during the summer. And the amount of students who took a variety of classes that would be, how do I want to say this, that what we're offering would mirror to some extent. It was great. So we do have some teachers that we would like to teach these courses. One of the courses, the global connections, because it is not content. How do I say this? It's not subject specific. This is a course that would be able to be taught by anybody with an active teaching certification within the building. So it doesn't have to be an English teacher or a social studies teacher or a math teacher. You know what I mean? It could be anybody with a teaching certification. So yeah, so we do have some people. We are looking to pilot these classes. It's the first time that we're offering these types of courses for our kids, and we're hopeful that we do gain some interest, and we'll be able to reflect on this after the scheduling process commences in a couple months.
Hey, anyone on the committee want to ask anything specific regarding these changes?
I have a bunch of questions, but I'm the only one with middle school kids, so I didn't know if other people had more generic questions. I was going to let others go first.
I don't know if mine are generic or not, and I don't have middle school kids at the moment, so I'm happy to ask mine, and if they qualify as generic or not, you'll let me know.
Maybe we'll overlap and then I'll ask fewer.
Okay. First of all, this sounds really exciting. That Radnor Middle School study that was done several years ago, I don't remember all the findings from it, but I do remember that there was feedback about expanding the elective choices for students. So I think that this is really exciting. Perhaps things have been added since then. I'm relatively new to the curriculum committee, but I think these all sound exciting and timely. And I also like the tie-in to career readiness. So all of that sounds terrific. And I'm just wondering, I have a couple questions about these. Is there a sequencing consideration? For example, if a student really loves some of these new electives, is there another opportunity once that student develops their passion, as is our mission statement, to be able to pursue that interest in the high school for high school elective courses? And also, as an extension, has there been any thought given to, you can probably tell I sit on the Delaware County Technical School Board, but to introducing students at this age to the courses that are offered at the Delaware County Technical School, because they seem to have some programs that overlap. There's a culinary arts, there's a commercial arts and digital advertising design school, and all of those things. So sequencing wise, were there some considerations there?
So that's actually a great question. And Mrs. Kevgis and I have formed a very good working relationship, as well as our administrative counterparts at the middle and the high school, as well as with Mr. Bechtold. I'm sure that is a conversation that we'll start to have, dependent upon how kids respond to these electives. That was one of the driving factors why we look to create these new courses, because there are students whose spark is in the area of maybe technical education or the foods or pastries or art or what have you. And we're excited at the different types of opportunities that can be presented to kids. So Ms. Goldman, those conversations I'm sure will happen in the very, very near future.
And I think you bring up a great point, because we know the tech high school starts in 10th grade. So this is giving them a little bit more opportunity a little earlier on to start figuring out if that is something they might be interested in, as opposed to just maybe 9th grade experience or exposure. So I think that is partially, it was brought up as one of the reasons why we want to push that into the middle school setting a little bit, so the kids can get that exposure and an opportunity to delve into what they enjoy.
Right. And I've really come to appreciate that even if you're going the Delaware County Technical School path, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily skipping college and going straight into an occupation. A lot of the students who graduate from there actually do take those skills on with them to college. It informs what kind of college they want to go to and what they want to study when they go to college. So to me, it sounds like there's a real opportunity here at a younger age than maybe we previously thought to create that potential pathway for a student who is looking for something to ignite that spark. And there are so many different things that we can all learn about what that pathway might look like, both from staff perspective, a student perspective, and a parent perspective earlier maybe than we would have initially thought. I had questions about the fitness center and the health center. Where is the fitness center? The gym? I mean, is that a fancy word for the gym? I was just wondering what the fitness center is.
So we have, so we're very lucky within this building. We have our main gym, of course, we have our auxiliary gym, and we actually do have a fitness center, which is located in between. I'd be more than happy to show anyone who would love to see it. It's a pretty nice fitness center. But there's different types of Nautilus equipment. There's some free weights, there's some bands, there's stepper, and there's a treadmill, and our students are using this. And one of the reasons why we did want to open this up is during our intramural program. Unfortunately, if there's ever a silver lining with what we're dealing with right now, unfortunately, middle level sports kind of within this league were kind of put to a halt. But we had the amazing opportunity to offer intramurals, and fitness was an intramural that I actually had to put students on a wait list, because the amount of kids who wanted to jump into that intramural was just mind-boggling. And so we absolutely wanted to offer kids an opportunity, within the morning sessions, because kids after school are busy, that if they wanted to come and work out and under the supervision of our health and physical education teachers, that opportunity would be there. So we're excited about this, about this addition.
And in terms of sequencing, I know that there was conversation around our PE decision last month or whatever, about making sure students develop an interest in using the fitness center at the high school too. So building an interest in pursuing fitness is great from an earlier age. The health center, the reason for providing an opportunity for students to catch up on work and health, did you discover that students were struggling with that curriculum, and what's that? When I heard health center, I thought maybe the nurse's office. Mm-hmm. What is
not necessarily. We just want, elective classes are very, very important to us within this building. And we wanted to make sure that we provided equitable access to kids. Like, let's say they're working on a project and they might not have time within their bit, because the middle school day is so structured for kids. We wanted to give them some opportunity where if they wanted to get some extra help or some possible enrichment things within a given content area, that opportunity would present itself within the traditional bell schedule of sorts. You know what I mean? So that, and or some kids might just want, like I said, some extra help, or if they're doing some group work, the teacher might be able to call them down and say, hey, let's work on this together, or the opportunity
it could be even almost seen as a mentorship, really, because a lot of our health and PE teachers get really closely connected with our students, and they have goals that might link to health and PE in some manner, whether it's exercise or getting fit or mental health or organization. And those kids can have the opportunity to meet up with those teachers and get some extra help and support if they need be.
That's great. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Dr.
no, I was just going to say, like, the 4 health and PE teachers that we have in our building are absolute rock stars. And,
Yes.
they have, let me personalize it a little bit. They have made connections with kids this year who may, I don't want to put words in these kids' mouth, but there wasn't that spark or that passion for physical and health education. And through these different types of centers, we have kids who are working out who may never have worked out before, or who have an interest in some of these, physical fitness, not just the actual physical part, but learning about physiology and learning about the human body, and, and why do I have to get my heart rate up to this number and keep that what I mean? So it's these types of things. It's the relationship building, and it's I don't mean to sound cliche, but it's just inspiring to see, and we want to embrace that across all of our content areas. So
Yeah, and your passion for these new courses really comes across. So I'm getting excited. Maybe I'll go back to middle school and take a few because they sound great. And innovating what's off, keeping kids interested in what they're learning is so important. Really doesn't matter what it is, as long as it sparks an interest in being in school and learning. And to that end is my final question / point is, because this seems maybe because I'm new to the committee, I don't know, but it seems really new and innovative what you're offering here. Do you have particular marketing plans to let students and parents know about some of this in a maybe splashier way than typically you would advertise new course offerings?
Absolutely. So, again, one of the silver linings here is through technology and through this even through the new digital media class that we're looking to offer, we are going to showcase these new classes and during our course selection process, and make sure that anyone within the community, not just kids here within the building, not just our parents and our caregivers who are here within our school community, but anybody can watch what we're looking to offer kids, for next year. I did mention that the class of digital communications class, because this would be a good segue, because kids inspire kids. So some kids who might want to take the class next year, I might actually grab them and see if they could help create this video, for us. Yeah. Because my editing skills are not up to par as to what our kids' editing skills are. So.
Because just listing it in print doesn't do it justice. I mean, you've brought such life to it and how you've described it in this meeting. Mm-hmm. And I hope that you're thinking of that in terms of conveying it. I'm sure there'll be kids who try it, but I think it's important also for parents to know that these are new course offerings and the relevance and importance of them. And so I'm glad to hear that you're thinking that way too.
Absolutely. And if I may, you were talking a little bit about sequencing. I did want to just kind of mention, with some of the elective offerings. So with the digital media class, for kids who do have that passion for writing and for the even English language arts outside of the core curriculum, in 8th grade, we do offer a contemporary writing class, and we do offer speech and debate. So we do have that segue that kind of falls under the English language arts umbrella. And we want to make sure we'll work very closely with the administrative team at the high school, because we don't want our classes to overlap. We want our classes to be able to complement each other as they go, onto high school. So we can consider this the exploratory phase, and then they'll delve deeper once they get into the high school years.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if those were generic.
Ms. Dunn, are you prepared to?
Yeah. So I just, for the benefit of people who are watching and may not know, that just remind us how many, I think it's 2, but maybe there are 3 electives that each student gets to pick in a year.
So
in 7th and 8th grades, it varies, I know.
So in 6th grade, our students, they have the opportunity to pick, I'm just going through 3 electives. Because the 4th elective would be part of our world language exploration cycle. In 7th grade, and part of the elective cycle is a world language, so I do want to say that. So in 7th grade, they would have the opportunity to pick 3 electives, and then in 8th grade, they'd have the opportunity to pick 2 electives each semester. So again, it is semester based. So so kids would have some selection. Again, we're keeping it somewhat elastic. We're keeping some constraints on it. But yeah, so we are trying to maximize exposure in 7th grade, and then little by little allow kids to have some more ownership and some more selection opportunity as they progress.
Student choice.
I think the new classes sound really interesting, and I'm really happy that you guys are looking for ways to expand kids and meet different types of needs. One question I had though, and just because it's not here, but I know there are other things that are offered in advisory, and I apologize, the middle school curriculum has changed even in the years I've been experiencing it. So chorus and band used to be during advisory. Are they still? Is that changing? I feel like something changed this year. Sometimes it's during the school day that you have to attend those and you miss a core class for them.
Yeah.
So
that's a great, and I do apologize, and I did not mention that. So, so during our advisory time, our students have the opportunity to jump in some of our co-curricular courses, such as our ensemble-based classes, our string orchestra, our chorus, as well as our band. So those classes are not offered during our elective cycle because they are offered during the advisory time. So that even it greater amplifies the amount of things that our kids really can take here at the middle level. So I kind of describe it to some of my peers as almost like, when you get a cup of French fries and it's overflowing, it's a great thing, right? And that's kind of like how we are right now. It's a great thing that we have all of these things here for our kids. During the day this year, to kind of complement the instrumental or the ensemble-based classes, so we do have lessons that our instructors do offer our students. It's not built into the schedule per se. It's not built into the students' master schedule, but it is scheduled by the instructors, and the students have to attend so many lessons during a marking period. Traditionally, kids are pulled from our elective classes to attend those lessons, but it's all then my thought, my philosophy is you're stealing from Peter to pay Paul, and that's not equitable. So we wanted to kind of stretch that out across the entire academic day for students to attend lessons. And we're not talking, 20 lessons a marking period or anything like that. We're talking a handful of lessons that kids have to, that they have to meet with the instructor for some small group or ensemble-based, instrumental-based classes. So your woodwinds would come together, your brass would come together, and things like that.
yeah, and this all goes to like scheduling being a total nightmare and not something I would want to have to do. But I will tell you, I think we lose kids in the music program because of that. I know my older child refused to take music after first year, refused to participate in the orchestra and band because she was required to miss classes and because she too many times missed the math preparation for an exam and said, forget it, I'm just never doing it anymore. And
right. It
was disappointing. And, she got back to it in the high school, but I think the middle school is really the linchpin between, the things we introduce them to in the elementary school and the things we want them to continue in the high school. So I would hope that that's something we're thinking about. And I know you've got limited hours in a day, and if you're not going to make it an elective that they have to take, it's hard to fit in. But I just, that's a concern I have with all that. But, and then with these extra help centers during advisory is great, but then if kids are going to chorus or going to orchestra during that time, makes it more of a challenge. So I'm happy to see that they were daily too, because kids aren't in chorus every day, so they should be able to find a time to get there.
And and to that point, and that's a very good point, and the last thing we want kids to do is to give them all these decisions that they need to make right now. Like, should I go to help? Should I go to and that is a lot on our students and our music teachers. I mean, I just met with them a couple of weeks ago to talk about the middle level schedule and things like that. They're very, very flexible and they're very understanding. And I think that is something that when we do our course selections that we kind of emphasize, that we are understanding, we totally get it. And again, we really want to embrace, our kids' spark. If kids do have that passion for music, we'll do everything we can, from a teaching staff to even as an administrative staff to embrace that. So if that's some the massaging of the schedule a little bit for them during that advisory time, we'll make sure that we do that. So we don't want to lose any kids.
Yeah. Two more points. One, I loved the baking and entrepreneurship class in 8th grade. There's a lot of that going on these days. One request, entrepreneurship is in the title, but I didn't really see it in the description. And I would love just a sentence that kind of says, kids are going to learn how to price out the supplies and include the cost of the packaging when they're going to sell baking, something, sell products. I think that's important, especially, parents can do that at home if the kids are trying to actually do that. But I think it's good for kids to think about it and think about it in a structured setting. Mm-hmm. And then the technology courses, I love that we're updating those. I love that we're focused on really getting kids into the more advanced options. My only concern is whether we're considering everybody's skill sets. So when I looked at the comparison charts for what is supposed to be taught in 6th grade computer science versus what's going to be taught in 6th grade technical applications, we're no longer covering Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Windows, and OneDrive. And my question is whether that's because we're communicating with the elementary schools and we know that's already part of the curriculum because they're getting technology there. There's a lot of transition when you get to the middle school, and I feel like, and again, I know we're changing our whole technology curriculum K-12, so I'm not necessarily, this isn't all on you, but I guess I just want to make sure we aren't, I know those 6th grade teachers expect PowerPoint presentations for their book reports. Right. And if kids don't have that at home and they don't have a parent who's taught it to them, or a parent who's terribly proficient in PowerPoint, because not all of us love PowerPoint, or they just don't have, parents who are computer savvy. How are they learning that? Where are we making sure they're getting those skills before we throw them into CAD and 3D printing?
And I'm very happy that you said this. So it's not that we are eliminating the instruction. It's just not standalone. So okay. A lot of that instruction will be woven in. And something that we did this year, and I'm going to throw Dr. Bryan here on the spot, is we noticed that some of our middle school students had some challenges with navigation of some of these different types of applications, and we have an amazing instructional coach here within the building, and our technology department has 2 tech specialists here that are rock stars. And in working with Dr. Bryan, they started to put kind of some sessions together for our new students and for our 6th grade students, where they went in and they taught them how to access Schoology, access OneDrive, and things like that. Dr. Bryan, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
What we're doing is part of transitioning into the middle school. We know some of our 5th graders coming in 6th, or even like 5th to 6th or 6th to 7th or whatnot coming into the middle school. They may not come in with that subset of skills with them. So we've created a kind of a training that they would get. Sometimes it's 1, 2, 3 kids, more kids with a small group at the beginning of the school year. But as they come in throughout the school year, we do a training session with them to make sure that they're up to date up and current with their peers. So they're able to access all that information and feel comfortable and confident when they go into classrooms, and they're not put on the spot and saying, I don't understand PowerPoint. I never did that in my past school district. So besides the transition of all kids to move up and having that built in, we're doing it for our kiddos that are coming in from other school districts.
That's great. And I really appreciate it, because I think virtual and hybrid has forced every student and parent in the district to learn a lot of things they skated by without. But I know when I was first had a middle school student, and we went to back to school night, and the parents are talking, the teachers say, oh, and you're going to be using Schoology, you're going to be using Hack. And I had no idea what these things are. And they're like, and of course you've used that for years. Well, no, it wasn't in Radnor Elementary at the time. So that was, anxiety just for a parent. I'm sure it's much greater at the student level when it seems like everyone just expects that you know those things. So I appreciate, especially for students who are new to the district, that you're taking that time.
Yeah, and if the kids are struggling, would be able to have that opportunity as well. So if we know a student was truly struggling, we would have that opportunity to be able to be afforded to them as well. So I think it's nice. It's a nice little program, and it's funny, COVID brings about all these things and changes, but the use of technology has really heightened its awareness that our kids need to really understand all these different platforms to be able to access their curriculum and communicate with their teachers.
Yeah, so. That's great. Well, thank you very much. And I know this is going to sound really old school, but I hated the typing class I was required to take in middle school, and I am still very happy that I took it. So I hope that typing techniques is at least, a brief phase in that, because I do think given all the computer use, it is helpful.
I was just going to say,
proper
Sarah,
skills.
if I had taken typing it's a one class in high school I wish I had taken is typing.
I thought it was ridiculous, and I was so offended. I was like, I'm not going to need typing, and I'm very happy I have this.
We used to require keyboarding in 9th grade. Back in the dark ages. I'm sorry, Ms. Dunn, are you finished?
No, I am, thank you.
Yeah. I want you to differentiate for me how the 8th grade courses, these 2 new courses, are different from Gateway, which I know is an integrated program. So it integrates the language arts, science, social studies. But so how do these fit with that? Or if you're a Gateway student, would you also want to take these 2 electives, or do they overlap, or how does this fit in with that?
That's a very good question. So our integrated programs here at the middle school, they are capped at a maximum of 40 students per program, and that is, of course, lottery based. That is total how kids get in is random. But we do have 300 and about 300 kids in our rising 8th grade class, and for kids who might have a passion in certain areas who do not have access because of the lottery to our Gateways program, what are we doing for them? So we wanted to make sure that do some of these classes, do they touch upon some of the same things? Sure. But our Gateways class, in addition to learning skills, the application is much more specific. And what I mean by that is our Gateways class delves into more whole class project-based activities, such as C-Perch competitions, the Future Cities competition, and things like that, where it's taking the whole learning community, making them part of this comprehensive project or the comprehensive process, at least for Future Cities, and then breaking it up into small groups that help tackle that. C-Perch is a little more individualized, it's a little more smaller groups, but still you have maximum participation from these 40 students who will be split into groups, and then using that design process thinking that is common across all the tech and the business ed classes. They apply designs and they tweak things. But these 2 classes, this would be accessible to all kids who would want to take this class. So even if you are in Gateways, you still have the opportunity to take this class. And I think that it's much more, the skills are more specific, I should say. You're using a variety, different types of equipment. You are working in that group setting similar to Gateways, but it's more individualized, I should say, whereas Gateways would be more project-based for the whole group, I should say.
And do we still run as many sections of Gateway as demand requires? I know that when my students were in the middle school, we had 2 Gateway programs running simultaneously as well as soundings. Yeah. Are we now down to 1 Gateway?
So as of right now within the middle level, we run 1 integrated program in 6th, 1 in 7th, and 2 in 8th. Mm-hmm. The 2 and 8th, one is more STEM based and the other is more humanities based.
Yeah. So it is really just 40 for Gateway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just
because there was tremendous demand when they first came out with that course, and we had 80 students and there were 2 sections, but yeah, I know times change.
And it's all, it's coming back to that access and that, that equitable exposure for all kids. Because if they don't get into that class and delve into those types of projects and curriculum, we want to make sure everyone has that opportunity.
Yeah. So this is another way to really kind of cut the cake, really, to offer it in a different way. Dr. Babson, did you have anything with regard to the middle school program of studies?
How much time do we got? I see we've got a.
Not much.
I know. Luckily, I had some time last week to make some comments and get some questions answered, which is great. I would actually, wondering if we could get some feedback from our teacher and student representatives, really. But just very quickly, I shared with everyone last week that I was very enthusiastic about the coursework, integrating ideas about thinking critically, being able to consume. If these times tell us anything, that consuming scientific reports and information is a critical skill in our society today. Also, having a global worldview and having a worldview that's comparative, being able to put oneself in context, considering one as just one part of the world. I think that's crucial. That's a crucial life skill. I think also this is really strong evidence that we're committed to seeing how we are putting our kids on a path to guided development when it comes to not only acquiring skills, but also channeling them in a way that's going to be helpful for them as they move forward in their life course. So whether they take a path that's more career and technical oriented or more academically oriented, or maybe a mixture of both at some point. So I think it speaks very highly to those values, and I see a commitment in these changes. I see a commitment to those values. I did have a couple of really minor questions or comments. So very similar to what Sarah was saying. So the difference between the 8th grade elective, I think it was advanced computer science, and then advanced, let's see what it is, 8th grade STEM entrepreneurship. I mean, I'm all about teaching kids how to think entrepreneurially and to think creatively, develop initiative. Problem-based learning is a research, tried and true, tested approach to learning. Very productive, very much a popular way of learning these days. But I'm just wondering, so in the advanced technology and education module, seeing those bullet points, it seems more geared toward developing these kind of basic core technical skills. Whereas with the STEM entrepreneurship, I'm just wondering how much we keep from the previous course and how much that is, being taken into the modified course.
So, so within this STEM entrepreneurship class, like I said, it goes. We're not. I don't say we're ridding everything. Kids will still have the opportunity to tackle some coding. They still will take a look at 3D printing. They still will have access to Adobe Illustrator and will be instructed in that. Mm-hmm. So there are some similarities between the two. Okay. In the current course as it is, there was an emphasis on typing speed and accuracy and different types of proper typing techniques. Actually, Mr. Bechtold, would you be able to, by chance, bring up the second page of the tech summary sheet, please? If you scroll down a little bit to the orange.
I'll just jump in and say, board members, this is something that was added late today, so it's on board docs, but this was not included in the packets on Friday. This actually came out of the meeting that we had with Mrs. Sullivan and Dr. Babson, where we're asked to look at a comparison of last year's courses with this year's courses. So we were able to get that put together, and this just breaks down what the technical courses look like for last year versus the new ones that are coming out.
I think it's a really helpful document, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So as you can see, like in the current current computer science class, there's some coding. There's Dreamweaver Creative Cloud. There's an introduction to animation and games, Photoshop exposure, as well as Excel and then typing. And then the entrepreneurship is really just going to be, again, focusing on that design process and that development of the entrepreneurial skills, excuse me. The students are going to learn a little bit about business principles. They're going to create that business, design that logo, create not so much of a business plan, but come up with an idea of what they want to do, why they want to do it. And then just use the different types of things, be instructed on the use of 3D printers, laser engravers for their logo and things like that. So there is some things that we are pulling from the current curriculum into next year, and they're going to be woven in throughout the semester.
Just very quick question, probably my last question here, given the time. So are there kids that would want a more technical oriented course that might look at this new sort of spin on it and think, I'm really interested in coding, and entrepreneurship is cool, but not my thing. Is that it?
That's a very good possibility. And to be very honest and be very open with you, I'm not sure. I mean, like I said, there are the elements. Coding is an element that's current that will be transferred, so it will be there. I believe that the time frame in which coding is taught this year in comparison to next year is not really going to be that much different. But instead of coding being a standalone, it's going to be integrated through, throughout, in addition to the initial instructions, it's going to be integrated because you have to be able to know how to use that laser engraver and the router and the mill and the 3D printers and things like that. And I know that Mr. Kelly, who's one of the instructors, and Mr. McCauley, they're going to make sure that wherever coding could be implemented, it's going to be implemented throughout the semester. But there might be that there might be where it might not interest a student, and to be, like I said, to be honest, we're not sure yet. We'll have a better idea once the course selection process comes to a close at the end of April.
Cool. No, I appreciate that. I mean, just on the face of it, like Amy was saying, I mean, it sounds like a super cool class. I mean, it sounds like a fun way to, wrap these ideas around a project, focus kids on a particular activity, developing a product that sounds pretty fun, pretty interesting. So yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
Great. Excellent. So that concludes the action items on the agenda. Is there any new business? Okay, seeing none. Are there any public comments? We're at the second round of public comments. Allison?
No public comment.
Thank you. All right, so if there's nothing further, that concludes our meeting. Our next meeting will be January 19th, also at 5 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Great discussion, very insightful. I really appreciate all the hard work from the administrators, and I think I hear from my colleagues a lot of excitement about what's happening. So really, thank you for all the hard work and the thought and innovation. All right.